could be very rational to get rid of all these carbon producing organisms on the earth that are ruining things. It could be a very rational decision by an AI.
Well, I mean, that would be the same equivalent to say that, genocide was rational, right? As an example.
Exactly. And AI could come up with that.
Yes. My view though on this one is that in the same way that you have arms races, AI arms races are also going to happen that counterbalance each other. So I don't subscribe to the view that there's going to be a master AI that rules over all AI. There's going to be a race, sure, to get there. But at the end of the day, I think the fact that we have multiple sort of, groups and agencies and countries all basically developing their AIs, somewhat in their national interest and their biases are going to be the elements that keep stuff broadly in a checks and balances. I mean, whether you call this, weapons, whether you call it whatever, there is a balancing act that stays there. I don't believe that humans aren't going to be the main center of attention, because I think we have something ultimately that, and we have something ultimately that, a machine won't ever really have, Now, so I understand the point that sort of Hinton might be saying.
Yeah.
But I think that comes from an intuition, and it also comes from the thinking that a lot of people have, is that we're just computers. So if you subscribe to the view,
we're organic computers. That's what Hinton says,
right? That as humans, that you are essentially just an organic computer, and we have certain irrational. And by the way, some people also believe that feelings and emotions are irrational, and our algorithms that are defective, right? I would argue the opposite. I would say that this irrationality, this ability for us to sort of do things that don't seem to make sense, the fact that we take risks on things that actually don't make sense, and then create certain incredible outcomes, good or bad, right, is something that is a feature that gives us the ability to basically project ourselves sort of evolutionary. And there's also, and again, this is beyond my broad knowledge, but an area of interest, the fact that, we don't understand, for instance, quantum theory and quantum mechanics. The fact that there are indications that as humans, we have essentially forms of quantum entanglement or sort of quantum presences in us with, the whole sort of, the sort of Penrose, sort of discovery around sort of the microtubules that essentially we're giving off essentially quantum vibrations, is indicative of the fact that we're probably connected to a wider universe in bigger ways. Now, again, this is far beyond my sort of knowledge, but, it's also a question of, ultimately from a physics standpoint, when we die, we don't really die. Our energy and dematerializes and essentially turns into something else, right? Right. So depending how spiritual you want to go, you can take extensions from that. So either way, call me an optimist, but that's not something that an AI can do. That's not something an AI is not built in that form or fashion. I think as we explore more deeper and understand more about sort of quantum physics, quantum mechanics, whatever theory you subscribe to, whether it's the Copenhagen interpretation or whether it's the many worlds theory or whatever it might be, as we get to deeper understandings, I think AI will help us get there because they can do the kind of computations and thinking that we as humans couldn't, therefore elevating our consciousness and elevating our ability to do things. And to the question of unemployment, I think it elevates us to become more creative overall. So there was a study, I may have shared this on your show as well, by George Land and Bethany Jarvis. They basically did a study in the 60s, which they basically did for NASA scientists to see how divergent they were. Because, when you shoot people to the moon or into space, you want to make sure that, if there's a problem, there's a mechanical failure or something, it's not a rule book that says, well, when this happens, do this. Someone has to be very creative to deal with it. So they created this sort of set of tests to see whether NASA scientists and engineers could solve these problems divergently. So they took the same test.
Investment Club. Today, I consider it the best investment that I've ever made. We get 4 projects presented a week by their associated CEOs. Personally, I'm completely blown away by the quality of these projects, and I know of nowhere else where I would be given this same opportunity. Each week that passes, I feel more appreciative of the fact that I'm a member of this group. The vibe was just tremendous. Everybody's on the same wavelength. We just clicked. Everybody listened to each other, enjoyed their company. It was just magical, magical. Take action. Don't take my word for it. Due diligence you need to do. And I really hope that someday down the road I see you in the club. It far exceeded expectations, without question.
And they followed children from the age of 5 to 15 to track how they were. And then gave the same test to adults as well, who are over the age of 21 or 21 or so. And what they found was that the 5-year-olds were able to solve the problem divergently. I think it was 91% of the time. And what that means is that we're born creative. We're born divergent. And then as they got older, I think 8 or 10 and then 15, that number went down. By the time they were adults, the 21-year-olds scored 2%. So we went from 91% creative to 2%. And the conclusion on this was, and this was used in various bodies of research and science as well, is that we as humans are actually creative beings. We had to do more autonomous tasks and schoolings in the Victorian system, trained us to be human robots,
right,
to basically help construct society, as it were.
Right.
But when you have something that takes it away from you and actually does that better, actually we can really do what we as humans were destined to do. So if you take that lens, which is what I take, then I would say that we're going to become more creative, more inventive, more intuitive, more in touch, because essentially AIs free ourselves up. Now, does that mean we're going to live in a future, as Sam Altman would think we would be, where universal basic income is going to be the way that we make money, like a Star Trek-like future, because essentially the AI will make all the money and we're just going to sit back and do our stuff? I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because as humans, we are designed to strive for better. This desire to improve is what puts us forward as a species all the time. It's why we went from cavemen to being where we are today, right? Some people call it greed, ambition. Maybe it's a vice to some, but the fact that we have that is why we push humanity forward. Whether it's for personal glory, for the glory of others, for altruism, whatever it is, we're always pushing something forward. There's an intrinsic desire that we have as a species, and I think that's a real part of what makes us human. So that means that that's why capitalism works, because capitalism is a measure of that. If I have a capitalist outcome, if I can make money from that, which is a form of power and influence, then I have a reason to take that risk. And the difference is that we're going from, and I said this at your show as well, we're essentially the labor of the hands into the labor of the mind. But what is the mind? In this case, with AI, the mind can elevate our consciousness. And so we're talking about something that is really in the mind, as opposed to just imagining or creating. And when you also think about where have the most creativity and growth come from, it's all intellectual property, right? The biggest companies in the world today are all products of the mind. They're not products of anything physical, right? And imagine what the world would look like when suddenly everyone that had untapped potential could open that potential with the AI that they were restricted to before because they couldn't do that. It wasn't that long ago where people used to look at people that had essentially were on the spectrum, like with Asperger's, for instance, right? Which is sort of on the sort of autism spectrum or ADHD. And they would say, oh, these people were basically defects of society. And now it turns out that they have superpowers of different sorts, right? Now we call them learning differences. But the reality is that for some of those people on the spectrum, they can do things that we as humans cannot imagine for, let's say, regular people, because we're not tuned that way, right? And again, with an AI, they might be able to tune themselves in different ways, but they can sort of grow and accelerate in ways. I actually think it's the beginning of more diversity and more growth than not. And it comes down to one ultimate form of, I guess, contention, which is whoever is building the AIs, what are they intending it to build for? I don't think anyone is really intending to build for something disastrous. Humankind had all sorts of reasons to exterminate ourselves in the arc of history. And at the end of the day, we always rallied around what we thought was the right cause at the end of the day. And that's what I choose to believe in. I think that's where we're going to end up being. I'm sorry. And the AIs that we're building are going to follow those same footsteps, because at the end of the day, I think they're still products of us. They are children of humans at the end of the day.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.